I have been a 911 dispatcher for 4 years now. 4 years of midnight shifts, thousands of emergency calls, and countless lives hanging on every word I speak. Tonight was supposed to be just another quiet Saturday. My fiancée Lauren texted me earlier saying she was staying at her sister's place. Girls' night, she said. I had no reason to doubt her, but lately something felt off. She came home late too often. That night, one call changed everything. Before we dive into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from tonight. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Stick around, because what happened next taught me the hardest lesson about love and betrayal. My name is Armin, and I met Lauren 3 years ago at a small coffee shop downtown. I had just finished a brutal night shift, the kind that leaves you feeling hollowed out. I walked in looking for nothing more than caffeine to keep me upright. She was the morning barista, bright eyes and a warm smile that cut through my exhaustion like sunlight through fog. The first time I ordered, she barely glanced at me. Just another customer. But the second time I came in, she already had my drink ready before I reached the counter. Black coffee, no sugar. She remembered. That small detail, something so simple, hit me harder than I expected. In a job where I spend my nights listening to strangers in their worst moments, having someone remember something about me felt like a gift. We started talking after that. Short conversations at first, just a few words exchanged while she made my coffee. Then longer ones where I would linger at the counter even when other customers waited behind me. She asked about my job, and unlike most people who seemed uncomfortable when I mentioned being a dispatcher, she leaned in with genuine curiosity. She said she admired what I did, that I helped save lives every single day without ever being seen. No one had ever described my work that way before. Our first date was a walk through the park near her apartment. Nothing fancy, just two people getting to know each other under autumn leaves. I learned she had moved to the city 3 years earlier to escape a small town that felt suffocating. She wanted more from life. I understood that feeling. We talked until the sun went down, and neither of us wanted to leave. The months that followed were the happiest I had known. We cooked dinner together in my tiny kitchen, laughing when I burned the pasta. We took road trips to nowhere in particular, singing badly to songs on the radio. She made me feel like I mattered outside of my headset and my dispatch console. For the first time in years, I could imagine a future that included someone else. After 2 years together, I proposed. I took her back to that same park where we had our first date, got down on one knee under a tree that had turned golden with fall colors. She said yes before I even finished asking. Tears streamed down her face, and she kept saying she could not believe this was happening. I slipped the ring on her finger and felt like the luckiest man alive. We moved in together shortly after renting a 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet suburb. Lauren had switched jobs by then, leaving the coffee shop to work as a receptionist at an upscale gym. The pay was better, the hours more flexible. I supported her completely. I wanted her to have everything she dreamed of. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. It began about 6 months before the wedding date we had set. Small things at first, so small I almost did not notice. Lauren started placing her phone face down on the table whenever we were together. When a text notification chimed, she would glance at it quickly, then tuck the phone away without responding. I asked her once, half joking, if she had a secret admirer. She laughed, but it sounded forced. Just work stuff, she said. Then her schedule changed. The gym added evening classes, she explained, and they needed her to stay late to handle the front desk during peak hours. 2 nights a week became 3, sometimes 4. She would come home around 10 at night, sometimes later, always tired, always distracted. I told myself it was normal. Couples go through phases. Work gets demanding. I was pulling night shifts myself. So who was I to complain about her hours? But the distance grew. Lauren stopped asking about my calls, about the hard nights that left me staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Our conversations became surface level, talking about groceries and bills instead of dreams and fears. I tried to plan date nights to recreate the magic we once had. She always had a reason to postpone. A headache, an early morning, a friend who needed her. I made excuses for her in my head. Wedding planning stress, new job pressure. The natural settling that happens when the honeymoon phase fades. I convinced myself that once we were married, once we made it official, everything would click back into place. Then came the night that cracked my denial wide open. I came home early one evening because a coworker offered to swap shifts with me. The apartment was dark and empty. Lauren was not there even though she should have been home by then. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. An hour passed, then 2. I sat on the couch in the dark, watching the door, telling myself there was a reasonable explanation. She finally walked in around 11, looking startled to see me. Her excuse came quickly. Her car ran out of gas on the way home and her phone died, and she had to wait for roadside assistance. She said it so smoothly, so confidently. But when I glanced at her car keys on the counter later that night, I checked the dashboard the next morning. The gas gauge showed half a tank. She had lied to me, looked me right in the eyes, and lied. I did not confront her. I do not know why. Maybe I was afraid of the answer. Maybe I was not ready to let go of the future I had built in my head. I went to work that night and sat at my console taking calls from strangers while my own life unraveled silently in the background. The signs kept coming, and I kept pretending not to see them. One morning, about 3 weeks after the gas tank lie, I was getting ready for work when Lauren stepped into the shower. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I was not planning to look. I'd never been the type to snoop. But the screen lit up, and the preview of the message was right there, impossible to ignore. The name said, Derek. The message said, "Last night was incredible. Miss you already." I stood frozen, my heart hammering against my ribs. The bathroom door was still closed, water running. I could hear her humming some song I did not recognize. I stared at those words until the screen went dark again. When she came out wrapped in a towel, she saw me standing near the nightstand. Her eyes flicked to her phone, then back to me. Something changed in her expression just for a fraction of a second. Then she smiled and walked over, picking up the phone casually. I asked who Derek was. She did not miss a beat. "Just a client at the gym being weird," she said. "Some guy who got too attached after a few personal training sessions. She said she would block him. She said it like it was nothing, like I was overreacting by even noticing." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. We had a wedding in 3 months. Invitations had been sent. Deposits had been paid. Our families were excited. How could I throw all of that away over one text message that might mean nothing? That night after Lauren fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Then I picked up my phone and searched for Derek on social media. It did not take long to find him. Derek Holloway, 35 years old, personal trainer at the exact gym where Lauren worked. His profile picture showed a man with broad shoulders and a confident smile, the kind of guy who probably had women throwing themselves at him daily. I told myself it was a coincidence. I told myself I was being paranoid. A week later, Lauren came home smelling like cologne. Not mine. A different scent entirely, something woodsy and sharp that clung to her sweater. I noticed it the moment she hugged me. I asked her about it, keeping my voice light casual. She said the gym had a birthday party for one of the trainers. She had hugged a few coworkers goodbye. No big deal. I checked the gym schedule online that night. No birthdays listed, no events, nothing. The lies were piling up and I could no longer pretend they were not there. I started losing sleep. At work, my focus slipped. During one call, I almost gave an ambulance the wrong address. My supervisor noticed something was off. Marcus. My closest friend at the dispatch center pulled me aside after a shift and asked if everything was okay. I told him it was just wedding stress. He did not look convinced. The weight of suspicion is a heavy thing to carry. It sits on your chest and makes every breath harder. I looked at Lauren differently now, searching her face for traces of guilt, listening to her words for hints of deception. Every time she picked up her phone, my stomach clenched. Every time she said she would be home late, I wondered where she really was. But I did not confront her. I did not demand answers. Some part of me was terrified that if I pushed, the whole house of cards would collapse and I would be left standing in the rubble of everything I thought I knew. One night, after a particularly brutal shift, I met Marcus at a bar we frequented. I had not planned to talk about Lauren, but the beers loosened my tongue. Before I knew it, I was telling him everything. The text from Derek, the cologne, the lies about her schedule, the gas tank that was not empty. Marcus listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, staring at his drink. Then he spoke. He told me he had been through something similar with his ex-wife. He recognized the signs because he had lived them, but he warned me not to confront Lauren without proof. He said if I accused her based on suspicion alone, she would turn it around on me, make me the bad guy, the jealous, controlling fiancé who did not trust her. He told me to wait. He said the truth has a way of coming out on its own. Sometimes you just have to be ready to face it when it does. I drove home that night feeling hollow. I did not want to be the guy who waited for his world to fall apart, but I did not know what else to do. So I went back to work, back to my console, back to answering calls from people whose emergencies I could actually help. 3 weeks later, on a quiet Saturday night, the truth found me. The dispatch center was nearly empty that night, just me and 2 other operators handling the overnight shift. Most Saturday nights brought a steady stream of calls, but this one had been unusually calm. I sat at my station sipping cold coffee, watching the minutes crawl by. Lauren had texted me around 8 that evening. Sleeping over at my sister's place, she wrote, "Girls' night, love you." I had no reason to question it. She stayed at her sister's apartment occasionally. It was normal. It was fine. At 1:14 in the morning, my console lit up with an incoming call. I put on my headset and answered with the standard greeting. 911. What is your emergency? The voice on the other end was frantic, high-pitched, breaking with panic. Please, please help. My lover, he stopped breathing. I think he is having a heart attack. Please send someone. I knew that voice. I knew it the way you know your own heartbeat. The voice I had fallen asleep listening to for 3 years. The voice that had said yes when I asked her to marry me. The voice that had promised to love me forever. Lauren. My whole body went cold. My hands started trembling on the keyboard. For a moment I could not speak, could not breathe. The room seemed to tilt sideways. But training took over. 4 years of conditioning kicked in. I heard my own voice, calm and professional, asking for her location. She gave me an address downtown, an apartment building I did not recognize, definitely not her sister place. I asked her to describe what happened. She was crying now, words tumbling out between sobs. We were together, she said. We were together and he just collapsed. Please, you have to hurry. We were together. Those 3 words confirmed everything I had feared and more. I continued the protocol, my voice steady even as my heart shattered. I asked if the victim was conscious. She said no. I asked if he was breathing. She said she did not think so. I instructed her to begin chest compressions, counting out the rhythm for her. And then I heard her say his name. Derek, stay with me. Derek, please. The same name from the text message, the personal trainer from the gym, the man who had been sleeping with my fiancée while I worked night shifts trying to save strangers' lives. I dispatched the ambulance to the address. I stayed on the line, guiding her through CPR, listening to her plead with another man to stay alive. Every second was agony. Every word she spoke was a knife twisting deeper. When the paramedics arrived and took over, I told her help was there. She thanked me through her tears, her voice thick with relief and fear. Thank you so much, she said. Thank you. She hung up without ever realizing who she had been talking to. I sat motionless at my station. The call had ended, but I could still hear her voice echoing in my head. My lover. We were together. Derek. My coworker a few desks away glanced over and asked if I was all right. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I told my supervisor I was feeling sick and needed to leave early. He took one look at my face and did not argue. I walked out of the building into the cold night air. My car was parked in the usual spot. I sat behind the wheel for a long time, not driving anywhere, just breathing, just trying to process the fact that my entire life had just imploded through a random emergency call. But somewhere in that darkness, a clarity began to form. I was not going to fall apart. I was not going to beg for explanations or wait for her to come home with another lie. I was going to take control. I drove to a 24-hour store and bought a box of large garbage bags and a roll of packing tape. Then I called a truck rental company and reserved a moving truck for 8 the next morning. By the time I got home, it was nearly 3 in the morning. The apartment was dark and empty, just as I had left it. I stood in the living room looking at the photographs on the walls. Lauren and me at the beach, Lauren and me at a concert, Lauren and me in the park where I proposed. I took them all down. Then I started packing her things, every piece of clothing from the closet, every bottle and tube from the bathroom counter, every pair of shoes, every book, every little item that belonged to her. I worked methodically, without anger, without tears. Each bag I filled was a step toward freedom. In her nightstand drawer, I found the engagement ring. Not on her finger where it should have been, but tucked away like something she only wore when I was around to see it. I placed it on the kitchen table. Then I wrote a note. Short and direct. No accusations, no insults, just facts. You called 911 tonight for your lover. I was the one who answered. The ambulance was for Derek. The moving truck is for you. Do not contact me again. I left the note next to the ring and went to sleep on the couch for a few hours. The truck arrived at 8. I loaded everything myself, bag by bag, box by box. When I was done, I called Lauren's sister, her real sister, and told her to come pick up the belongings. I said Lauren would understand why. She tried to ask questions, but I hung up before she could finish. A locksmith came at 10. I had every lock in the apartment changed, new keys, new deadbolt, new security chain. By noon, every trace of Lauren was gone from the space we had shared. She tried calling that afternoon. I did not answer. She called from different numbers. I blocked each one. She sent emails that I deleted without reading. Whatever excuses she had, whatever explanations or apologies, I did not want to hear them. I had gotten my answer. I did not need anything else from her. The first few days after were the hardest. Once the adrenaline faded and the tasks were complete, the grief hit like a freight train. I sat alone in an apartment that felt too quiet, too empty. Half the furniture was gone. Half the memories were gone. And the future. I had imagined the wedding, the life together, the family we might have had. All of it had vanished in a single phone call. I cried that first night, really cried for the first time in years. Not for Lauren specifically, but for the version of myself that had trusted so completely and been so thoroughly deceived. I mourned the man who had believed in forever. Marcus came by the next evening with pizza and a six-pack. He did not ask for details. He did not offer advice. He just sat on my couch and watched a basketball game with me. And somehow that was exactly what I needed. Someone to be present without demanding anything in return. I took a week off work. I needed to sort out the practical things, canceling the wedding venue, calling the caterer, returning the suits. Every phone call felt like ripping off a bandage. Yes, the wedding is off. No, I do not want to reschedule. Please process the refund. Some deposits were non-refundable. I accepted the loss. Money could be earned again. Time and trust were harder to recover. When I returned to the dispatch center, I threw myself into work. Each call reminded me that my problems, as painful as they were, existed in a world where people faced far worse every day. Heart attacks, car accidents, house fires, violence. My heartbreak was real, but it was survivable. I would not die from betrayal, even if some nights it felt like I might. I started going to the gym after my shifts. Not the one where Lauren worked, obviously. A different place across town where nobody knew me. I ran on the treadmill until my lungs burned. I lifted weights until my muscles ached. Physical exhaustion became my therapy, a way to quiet the thoughts that circled endlessly in my head. A month passed. Then 2. Lauren tried reaching out through email a few times. I deleted the messages without opening them. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Derek had recovered from his cardiac episode and that he and Lauren were together now officially. The news stung, but it also confirmed what I already knew. She had made her choice long before that 911 call. I was just the last one to find out. 3 months after that night, I joined a morning running group. Strangers became acquaintances, then friends, people who knew nothing about my past, who saw only the person I was becoming. I learned their names, their stories, their struggles. Connection slowly replaced isolation. I started cooking for myself, experimenting with recipes I had never tried. The kitchen that once felt lonely became a place of small victories. a perfectly seasoned steak, homemade bread that actually rose, simple pleasures that reminded me I could build a life worth living on my own. Somewhere along the way, I realized something important. I'd spent years defining myself through my relationship with Lauren. Her happiness was my priority. Her approval was my validation. When she left, I did not just lose a partner. I lost the person I thought I was supposed to be. But in the wreckage, I found someone else, a man who could stand alone, a man who did not need someone else to complete him, a man who could answer 911 calls all night and still find peace in the morning. I will not pretend the healing was linear. There were bad days mixed in with the good. Nights when I reached for a phone to text her before remembering she was gone. Moments when a song or a smell would bring everything rushing back. Grief does not follow a schedule. But slowly, steadily, the weight lifted. A year has passed now since that call. I still work the night shift at the dispatch center. I still answer emergencies and send help to people in their darkest moments. But I do it differently now. With more compassion, maybe. With a deeper understanding that everyone carries wounds you cannot see. I am still single. I am not rushing to change that. For the first time in my adult life, I am comfortable with my own company. I have learned that solitude is not the same as loneliness, and that being alone does not mean being incomplete. As for Lauren, I have forgiven her, not for her sake, but for mine. Carrying anger is exhausting. It poisons everything it touches. She made her choices, and she will live with them. I made mine, and I'm at peace with that. The night she called 911 for her lover, she did not know I was the operator. She did not know that her desperate plea for help would become my wake-up call. In trying to save Derek, she set me free. Sometimes the person who breaks your heart teaches you how to protect it, and sometimes being the one who answers the call for help means learning to answer your own call first. If you are going through something similar, I want you to know this. The pain is real, but it is not permanent. You deserve someone who never makes you question your worth, and you deserve to be the one who decides when enough is enough. So let me ask you this. Have you ever discovered a painful truth in the most unexpected way? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and sometimes knowing we are not alone is the first step toward healing. If this story touched you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for listening. I wish you strength if you are hurting and peace if you are healing. Take care of yourselves, and remember you are worth more than anyone who makes you feel like you are not enough.